We're selling a service, making sure that people are aware of that service and how it correlates to the problem. That is the biggest hurdle. 99% of the population don't know what we do. And even within any service or trade world, 99% of those guys don't have any idea what we do. If I could shout from the rooftop and let everybody hey, we line pipes. You probably need your pipeline. This is what we do. You can't really do that, right?
John, I don't know if you know this, but we are actually in the top 10% of podcasts of all time already.
Because the number of episodes we've done?
Yep. 90% of podcasts don't get through. I was talking to Mark about it the other day. 90% of podcasts don't get past episode 3. Mm-hmm. And then of that 90%, or of the 10%, another 90% of those don't get past episode 20. So we're
very exciting.
We're getting into legendary territory.
All right. Well, hopefully we're doing this episode 500 and 1,000.
100%.
And everybody's liking what we have.
The Joe Rogan of
that's right.
Pipelining.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So today's episode, we're going to be talking about our customers, who they are, why we like them, why they like us, how we go about finding them.
Yep.
So I guess starting off, who's our typical customer? Where do you usually get calls from? What's the situation like?
Yeah. So we have, within our business, we have different market segments or kind of classifications of customers or who we really do business with. And so depending on how we're focusing, there's really 4 or 5 different groups. Number one, which is probably the most common in about 30 or 40% of our business, is residential work, right? So anybody who owns a property, you're responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of that pipe out to the street, your septic system. So residential people, obviously older homes, got issues, buildups, and they're looking at how to fix their pipe. So we have done and we do a lot of residential work over the years. In what we call kind of the commercial world, our segments are property managers or people who are responsible associated with large-scale facilities. Think of a hospital or a multifamily apartment complex. So we kind of divide these up into healthcare and hospitality. That's a segment we have. Multifamily, again, think of apartment complexes. Property management, so the people who handle or managing of those properties. And then our fourth category is really vague, is just really any commercial or industrial building. So think of that maybe an industrial park. Maybe just a building that, like we're in here at Royal Flush, we're the owners of the building and we need to maintain it and upkeep it, but clearly it's not a residential property. So just general commercial and industrial. Those are our customers who have a need, want to eliminate that disruption, trying to figure out, usually scrambling when there's a problem, or maybe they've known of a problem for a little bit and now they're like, hey, we need to get this fixed. This is really affecting our business or our tenants, or in a hospital case, our patients. Maybe health-wise, maybe Board of Health type of stuff. So those are our kind of segment groups and the type of people that we do business with on a day-to-day basis.
And then do you notice any differences as far as if you're working with healthcare versus residential? What are the main differences in maybe the problems or even just the process doing the job?
So I would say ultimately the problem is always the same, just on a different size scale. Right. And so traditionally we have, mostly 2 to 3 different types of pipes here in New England. So we have cast iron, clay, or Orangeburg or asbestos pipe. Right. So pretty much 99% of the buildings we're going to go to, those are the types of pipes. And ultimately, we're usually talking about the decaying, the breakdown, the reduction of flow, or a backup actually causing major issues. So the issues are the same. But as you can imagine, if we're talking about Rhode Island Hospital, where we've done work in the past, this is a 10-story building that probably has 1,000 rooms, so maybe 1,000 patients, and maybe 1,000 to 2,000 people working there at any time. So we're talking 2,000 people. The amount of use and abuse of 2,000 people washing, flushing, sinks, right? You've got to imagine is 2,000 times, maybe the house that you grew up with your family, Kyle, with your brother, your mom, your dad, 4 people, right? So the use and abuse on that line is very, very different. But with a hospital, it's the disruption, right? It's if we've got a wing out of service because we can't have the patients flush their toilets, and there's literally raw sewage backing up in an OR unit, the scale of that problem is very, very different. Now, it could be just as dramatic and traumatic to Susie homeowner who can't use and flush her toilet. It's really the same problem. It's just the scale, maybe the urgency, And then certainly the process to fix it ultimately is the same, but you have to think, if we're doing a hospital, significantly more people involved, usually significant longer of a timetable for that project to actually start happening, and then significantly more people are affected by the downtime and the disruption. So I would say it's always technically the same problem, but how you handle it. And then one thing I didn't hit on is the logistics of
That was my next
those
question.
customers in that job, right? So again, I can communicate with a homeowner that you're going to be down for 6 to 8 hours. Maybe you're at work. Maybe you can stay at a friend's house. You can hang out at the house, and you can actually use the toilet. You just can't flush it. Whereas the logistics of a hospital, again, back at a house, we can just park our trucks outside, go back and forth. If we're working on the third floor of a hospital, you got to think of how many doors are we going to go through, right? So like, it's silly. This is something that, if you walked in a hospital, you never think about. But when we're doing our job, we're maybe going to meet at the loading dock. That's 8 feet off the ground. Then we're going to go in either a freight elevator or a side door. Then we're going to probably go up 2 or 3 flights of stairs. Then we're probably going to open up a security door. Then we're in the wing. How many doors are there in a wing of a hospital, right? A main hallway, then maybe we're in a room. So how are we going to get all our equipment up there, right? What are we going to do? How are we going to get these air hoses that are like this big that carry all the air from our trucks to the job to allow us to do a job? How are we going to logistically do that? So the logistics of a job are severely more complicated on the larger scale commercial projects, specifically with a hospital or a healthcare facility. But even just, again, a building like ours, maybe you've got a 350 feet. Maybe there's half of the building is working office staff that it's going to be on the phones all day and it need to be quieter. We're going to have some loud noise going on, right? So these are all these factors that go into communicating with the customer and how it works and what we're going to do and setting expectations. But yeah, ultimately, it's really the same type of job. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Royal Flush Podcast, and I just want to take a minute to explain to you the importance of a camera inspection and how it works within what we do here at Royal Flush. If you've ever wondered what's going on inside your underground sewer line, we have the technology to do just that. If you've ever experienced a slow drain, God forbid a backup, and God forbid any sewage coming into your home, we at Royal Flush have state-of-the-art camera equipment to take a look down your pipe to diagnose the problem and understand better what's going on. The analogy I like to use is going to the doctor for a broken bone. A doctor would never prescribe any medicine or certainly give you a cast without doing an x-ray on your bone to understand if it's broken. The camera inspection is going to do the same exact thing. That's going to allow us to look inside the pipe, diagnose and inspect what's going on, and from there offer you a solution. I have an exclusive offer for you. If you mention this Royal Flush Podcast, we'll offer you the camera inspection free of charge. Enjoy the rest of the episode. Hope you like it.
So I know you've talked about the pillars in the past. As far as finding our customers, they don't just kind of start banging on the door saying, I need my pipeline.
People don't walk in and go, hey, you guys selling pipelining here?
Yeah. So how do we go about finding customers? How do you find customers to go about finding us? All that fun stuff.
Yeah, well, that's an important part of every business, right? So you got to have quote unquote people walking in the door or knocking on the door, right? So we don't sell a commodity. We're not selling shoes or sneakers or hats on the internet. We're selling a service and a solution for a problem. So making sure that people are aware of that service and how it correlates to the problem, that is the biggest hurdle. So you've probably definitely heard me say on this podcast already, and I will say it forever, anybody who talks to me, 99% of the population don't know what we do and that the technology exists. And even within any service or trade world, any other plumber, excavator, handyman, roofer, 99% of those guys don't have any idea what we do. So for us, number one of everything we do is education, right? We want to try and let as many people as possible, homeowners, healthcare facility managers, apartment complex, commercial, industrial, all of our segments, we want to let as many of those people know what we do. If I could shout from the rooftop with a megaphone and a flyover plane, right, and all these things that are pretty cool but maybe expensive, maybe not realistic, if I could do that, I would, and let everybody like, hey, we line pipes. You probably need your pipeline. This is what we do. You can't really do that, right? So we have 4 to 5 pillars that we try to build our business on of how we get in front of the customer to let them know what we do, right? And so we'll start with number one is you, Kyle, right? So you've been with us for a year, and you're either hopefully listening to us through a social media device. I guess I'll call them social media devices. They're not phones anymore, right? It's a social media device.
Essentially, yeah.
You're listening to us on your phone or your laptop, or you're watching us on YouTube, right? And so we've invested heavily in social media. We know that this is how people today gather information for their entertainment value, just become aware of a topic or something that they're interested in. I like watching like woodworking videos and cabin videos, right? These are things that I like consume a massive amount of content on. Hopefully, we would love for people to consume pipelining content and think it's really cool and educated. So we try to post on all the platforms. We've obviously created this podcast, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. So heavy social media for the goal of education, entertainment, and information about what we do. That's kind of one pillar, and that is your expertise. A second pillar is certainly recommendations and past work, right? So our company's been around for 30 years, and Jim, our owner, who was on episode 1, if you haven't listened to Jim and his great Scottish accent, check out the first episode and hear Jim's story of how he started Royal Flush. He built up a great reputation and a great clientele of people that we've done business with for a long time. Additionally, we've built some really great networking with other contractors, other plumbers, other excavation contractors, other engineers who we've built that relationship and let them know what we do. So we have people calling in, right? We have people requesting our service. Hey, I think I've got an issue you can help me out with. You've done work for me in the past. My sewer line's now acting up. I need you to help me out with. We've done work with you in the past, blah, blah, blah. I've got another job that's similar. Come take a look at it. Help me out. So we have what I call the kind of referral recommendation business that's kind of internal. The other two avenues in our pillars are, our sales force and our SEO, our website and our digital presence. So Joe, who's been on an episode here, is our external sales guy. I do a lot of selling myself, but Joe's job is to go out into the field and to educate, meet, and get in front of, and ideally be top of mind for the people that fit into these market segments. Again, we talked about the healthcare and the hospitality and the property management and the industrial customers. These people that we know fit and have a need for our service, Joel's sole goal is to be in the field as much as possible, emailing, calling, meeting in person, dropping off samples, having our literature and our information in front of those customers to say, hey, I'm sure you've had a problem in the past. Everybody's like, yep, I certainly have. I did this and this. Okay, wow. If I had known about your service, this would have really helped me out. And they asked for Joe. I was like, hey, well, when something comes up in the future, all I really ask for you is to give me a call to see if that's something we can help you solve, right? So he's selling, but he's really educating those people who are in decision-making positions within our segments to let them know what we do. Again, education is the key.
I was gonna say you kind of wrapped it up right there with that, but I think education's huge. Where, like you said, Joe's not really selling as much as he is educating. Whereas if the general public, like the masses, knew about epoxy pipelining, this would be a $1 billion business right now. Like it just, and as someone who's only really known about the technology for about a year now, it's just so clear that something like this is, and I don't want to sound too salesy, but it should be the answer in most situations. So if people were aware of it, like you said, 99% of people are unaware of it, just getting the word out with the materials and everything, which I think is a huge advantage walking around with informational material, is education is just the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And the more people that know about it, the more people will realize, oh, this is probably the right solution.
Absolutely. And then so our final pillar is what I call maybe our digital aspect. And so you're certainly involved in that, Kyle, but separated from social media and the podcast and what we do is the website, right? So you got to think, if you're a property manager and you don't know anything how to fix anything, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Go to Google.
You're going to type it in, right? You're going to go to Google or YouTube and say, I have a sewage backup. How do I fix it? Or my pipe is broken, or my toilet won't drain, right? And so we've invested heavily in redesigned our website, actually 2 times over the last year and a half. And we're now working with a third-party SEO company, which is Search Engine Optimization, which is really a fancy way for working behind the scenes with Google, which is the biggest search engine in the world. And let's face it, 99% of people have a problem. They go to the internet, Google pops up, and they type something in, right? And so it's working behind there So if you're in the city of Newport and you type in my sewer line's acting up, ideally Royal Flush pops up, right? And so that's a whole mindfuck of
It's Greek.
information and technology, and it's literally a whole new language and a whole new world. And we're learning a lot about Kyle. We know a hell of a lot more today than we did 6 months ago, but we know like 0.1%. So we're working with a third-party company who we're really happy with that helped us redesign our website geared towards that search engine optimization piece. And then additionally, all the stuff in Google and all that fancy stuff behind the scenes. So when people are searching or looking for information, Royal Flush pops up at the top of the list, which ideally you'll click on it, find some information on our website that might pique your interest. Oh, I've never heard of epoxy pipelining. How does it work? And thus that results in either an email contact, a text, a phone call, and we start that conversation and that sales process of identifying what your problem is, if it's a right fix for us, coming out and do a camera inspection, and going from there. So again, those, if I could recap, those pillars are, for us, of how we get our customers, is word of mouth and previous work, social media, our sales team, and what I'll call the internet or search engine optimization. And the goal is we can continue to reinforce those, invest in those, make those bigger and better, dollar-wise, human capital-wise, with the goal of, again, everybody knowing certainly about Royal Flush, but more importantly that epoxy pipelining exists, and it is usually 99% of the time the right alternative to fix your underground problem.
And then, so finally, I know we talked about who our customers are for the most part, how we go about finding them, how they go about finding us. But who's the ideal customer? Like, what's the perfect situation? Marriage is the term that you've used before. To do business.
Yeah, so not every time or every scenario that somebody has an underground sewer problem are we the right fix or the right company for them. So we'll use the residential example because it's probably the easiest and the most relatable to somebody. And so let me lay out this scenario. You've owned a home for 15 years and you've never really had any problems. You've flushed in and taken showers and everything's cool. 5 years into your home ownership, your drain's a little slow and you call a local company, Uncle Bob's Drain Cleaning, you call Roto-Rooter, whoever, there's tons of really great drain companies out there. And they come in and they snake out your drain and they kind of mill out the line, or they maybe hydrojet it and put some water down there and get you back up and running, right? And you're great, okay. Just a normal everyday clog, or maybe something got snagged up on the line. That's the right fix for you at that time. That we at Royal Flush are not going to clean out your line like that. And technically, you really haven't uncovered a major issue. Things happen. Something got stuck. Maybe your kid flushed something down the pipe that wasn't supposed to be there. Maybe it just got caught up on something down there. But again, you can hire a local company for hundreds of dollars to come out and get that line back up and running. So that's year 5 of the home ownership. Year 10, it happens again. And now you as the homeowner are a little more familiar with it. Oh, yep, this happened 5 years ago. Timmy might have flushed something down there. We might be abusing the toilet paper. Maybe the ladies in the house are flushing some of their feminine products, which are not supposed to. Maybe you've introduced a little one, like I have a baby into the house, and you're flushing baby wipes down the toilet. Kyle, you know how I feel about baby wipes.
Not a fan.
Don't put them down the toilet. So, maybe you're abusing it a little bit more. Maybe you've had a garbage disposal and you started using it a lot more because you're stressed out about the little baby and you don't have any time. You're just putting all the food down the sink. And so you're abusing your system a little bit more. So it's 5 years. Year 10, you had a problem at year 5. Now you're having a problem at year 10. And you call the same company back and they're like, yep, I remember you, can come out and we can do the same thing. Okay? Now all of a sudden it's year 12 and it happens again. And then it's year 13 and it happens again. And now all of a sudden 6 months later it happens again. And so the frequency of the time if we were going to look at that lifespan, if we did a nice little life cycle chart, when people have issues with their pipes, the more it happens, it's going to become more closer together, frequency-wise. So the story I hear from people every single day is, bought the house 15 years ago, it happened. In year 5, happened in year 10, then 11, then 12, then 6 months, and 2 months. Now, the guys were here last week and it happened again. And this is what I like to call the pain point, right? And so this is where we at Royal Flush can marry up and mirror up to the customer's pain point, because now you're looking for a permanent solution. At year 5, you didn't need a permanent solution for that pipe. It's just everyday maintenance and wear and tear. But the pipe is probably getting worse. You're probably abusing it more and more. The condition of that pipe is deteriorating, and something is going on that is causing the problem, right? And at that point, you've probably spent over the last 10 years thousands of dollars on a drain cleaner, have had a headache multiple times. You're actually very familiar with this process. You're going to go, oh, this is happening again. Okay, I got to call this guy in. Guys, we can't do any laundry for 3 days. The kids couldn't take a shower before school because it was all back. Right? You're very familiar with this, and you're getting frustrated. You feel that the problem isn't being solved, and now you're looking for a permanent solution. And that's what we do, right? When somebody tells me that story, that it's happened multiple times, and now it's happened 3 times, they were here last week, I know the chances of us doing work together are really, really high because we're going to alleviate the pain point. And I always say that person who wants to get it checked off their list, I don't want to have to deal with my sewer line ever again. I got a lot of other problems in my life. I got to go to work, the boss I don't like, my kid's in 6th grade and school's starting up and we're school shopping and he's acting like a nightmare because he doesn't want to go back, in everyday life. And you want to check that pain point off the list, that's when we can marry up. So that's really the residential piece of the marriage of business. Again, people who have had issues continually and now they're looking to check it off the list. In the commercial world, or those other segments that we talked about, it all depends. It's so unique. Somebody can own a building and operate 50,000 people inside of it and had it for 50 years and there's never been a problem. And the first problem that comes up, they go, we can't ever have this happening again. This was disruptive. There's other times where, again, they've done the same thing where they've kind of band-aided it and have it maintained, and now it's becoming really disruptive. There's other times where it can be the first time that happened, but it's so disruptive to the business, it's costing revenue. In the restaurant world, we do a lot of business with restaurants. The disruption of that line or having to shut down the interior of a restaurant, maybe a dining room, this is a massive loss of revenue. Right? Okay. So it's not just the cost of doing the job, the $5, $10, $15, $20, $50, $100,000 project that we're working on. It's, every day you're closed or every day those pipes aren't flowing, you're not able to serve food on the dining room, or you have to get a porta potty outside. How are you going to run a restaurant that way? So you're losing revenue every single day. So it's really understanding the customer's needs, finding their pain point, making sure they fully understand what we do, the solution we're going to offer, that we're going to eliminate the disruption, eliminate the downtime. That's where we like to say we can marry up and be a perfect fit for each other.
Well, I think that's a good place to leave it off right there. We talked about the ideal customer, how people go about finding us. Anything else you want to touch on? Anything else you want to add?
I think I hit on the major points of our customers. Our ask always is, if you've got any concern or any question, just give us a call. We can probably, I can diagnose the problem over the phone about 95% of the time and see if you're at the pain point for us. If it makes sense that we have a potential marriage there. A lot of times we don't, and what I always like to say is, I don't want to waste your time, but selfishly, I do not want to waste my time. I am not interested in wasting our time in pursuing something with a customer that I don't think we can really help them out with. And so we have no interest in coming to your home and charging you for something that we don't think is going to, at the end of the day, fix your problem. And so, of the phone calls that we get, of those people coming in or soliciting or whatever, a lot of them like, nope, I actually can't help you out. I need you call a drain cleaner. That's a perfect solution for what you have going on. And so we try to, quote unquote, weed out the customers that we really can't help, because our time is valuable. We want our guys focusing on and executing, fixing the problem. And again, it's not worth your time. It's not worth my time if it's the first time in 5 years. The chances of us lining your pipe are going to be really, really, really low. It's not going to make economical sense for you or me. And so, our ask is give us a call. Tell us what's going on. Tell us what's been happening. If you're looking for a solution that really gets something solved, that's where we can marry up. That's where all these customers that we try to find, that we try to let know what we do, if they're looking for a solution, that's when we can do business with them. So call us anytime at Royal Flush. We'd love to chat with you, tell you more about what we do, hopefully marry up with you and fix your problems. Other than that, thanks for listening to the podcast. Check out more episodes to come. Thank you very much.